I'm very, very pleased to say it's Nancy Pelosi, the former House Speaker, the current Speaker Emerita. Madam Speaker, we have so much to ask you. We're so glad you could be here with us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You have been invoked.
To be with you.
You have been invoked in this current discussion that we're having, I'm sorry to say, because the former president, in campaigning in New Hampshire, did repeatedly try to attack you over the response to the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol building. His opponent, Nikki Haley, has made a lot of hay out of the fact that in trying to attack you, he kept using her name instead. We've heard what Nikki Haley thought about that confusion, that mistake by Donald Trump, but I don't know what you thought about it, and I'm curious.
Well, let me just say I'm not going to spend too much time on Donald Trump's cognitive disorders. But what I am going to say, and I want to, in friendship, say to Chris, he tried to say that Nikki Haley did not allow the National Guard to come, but it was Nancy Pelosi. It was nobody. It was Donald Trump. He knows, and you know, that Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, and I begged for hours for the National Guard to come. He knows that we don't have the authority to bring the National Guard. The president does. Sad to say for the District of Columbia, because every other state, the governor has that power. So I'm more concerned about what he was trying to accuse her of than, again, his many misrepresentations. But don't spend so much time on him. We don't agonize about him. We organize. And Joe Biden is our nominee, and he's going to be, again, he and Kamala Harris are again going to be president and vice president of the United States. It's now the time. The intensity has arrived. The election year is here. As you see, some folks have come over from the White House, Jill O'Malley Dillon and Mike Donilon, two stars of the political arena in our country, joining Julie is wonderful, Julie Chavez Rodriguez. She's done a great job as the campaign manager. She has the biggest record of money raised for a presidential campaign. More importantly, she's mobilizing at the grassroots level. We organize, and they will come now together with a message to go forward. The message, so when he lies, I mean, he's a constant liar, but when he lies, sometimes you have to listen to him. For example, he lied and said, Obamacare sucks. I mean, to use his kind of language. Obamacare sucks. Listen to when he says that. Of course it doesn't. Affordable Care Act cures. So in the campaign, people have to understand that their well-being is on the ballot. Whether it's a woman's right to choose, which yesterday we observed the 51st anniversary of when that became respected in our country until his judges pulled that down, and he brags about that. He says he's going to terminate the Affordable Care Act. And what does that mean to you? If you have a pre-existing condition, if you have a child in college, after college who still needs health care, if you're a woman, being a woman is no longer a pre-existing condition. The list goes on and on about the benefits of the Affordable Care Act. So people have to understand, listen when he speaks, because he does not have your interest at heart, even though you may not, I respect as you see your interest, but I make sure that you know how you are affected by some of what he says, whether it's guns, whether it's climate, whether it's a woman's right to choose, whether it's health care. In 2018, people said to me, weren't you lucky that health care became the central issue of the campaign, and that's how you won 40 seats and win the House? I said, no, we weren't lucky. We made our own luck. So let's get on with it. Let's forget about him and his dysfunction and understand that we have to get out our vote. We have to mobilize, own the ground. We have to message in the interest. As Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it, practically nothing. And we have to have the financial resources, and Joe Biden has proven that he can attract that. Message, mobilization, money. Joe Biden, great vision, great knowledge, great strategic thinker, great legislator, and a person with a big heart and empathy for the American people.
Speaker Pelosi, it's Alex Wagner. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hi,
how are you? In addition to abortion and the ACA, it seems like one of the issues that's very much front of mind with Republican voters tonight and those who may not be fans of Donald Trump is whether or not he is going to be convicted. I'll point you to some of the exit polling we have tonight. 47% of Republican New Hampshire primary voters say they would not consider Donald Trump fit to be president if he were convicted of a crime. Last week, 31% of Iowa caucus goers said effectively the same. As of this evening, he's almost certainly going to be the nominee. I do have to ask you, should the American people know whether they are potentially voting for a convicted felon? You established the January 6th committee in June, I believe, of 2021. It held its first public hearing in July of 2021. Do you take any issue, given that history and the fact that you're an American voter, with the timeline that the Department of Justice has pursued on this, both in terms of the investigation and the prosecution of Donald Trump?
Well, let me say that no one in our country is above the law. And that certainly applies to someone who wants to be president of the United States. And many of the transgressions that the president has engaged in are about his integrity. But it's also about our security. But people, his base doesn't seem to care about some of that in those states and in any event. But the fact is they have to know what it means in their lives, that they're no longer going to have affordable care, that there will be a national ban on access to an abortion. So the election's about freedom, democracy, yes, writ large, but it's also about your personal freedom in your lives. And all the things that Joe Biden did in the in his presidency, with the help of Democrats in the House and Senate, I might add modestly, were great things to create jobs. 26. But how many million more jobs? 16 million jobs created. The market hit 38,000. Now it's down to 37.9 or something today, but record high. What that means to people's 401ks. The issue about, again, child tax or Biden child tax credit, what that means to women to be in the workplace. Actually, dads, too, but in the workplace. So we have to carefully and with great, shall we say, prioritizing, make sure people understand. While they may want to vote for a convicted felon, do they want to vote for somebody who's going to take away your health care, especially if you have a pre-existing condition or a child with one? Or do you want to make sure that your daughter, wife, sister, someone in your family has no freedom to make a judgment about her reproductive health? Do you want to vote for somebody who ignores that in the country, 80-some% of American people think there should be background checks for purchasing of firearms to reduce the violence in our country? And young people care so much about the climate issue, which this person doesn't, I don't even say understands it, much less understands, or is solely in the pocket of the fossil fuel industry, which is probably blocking his understanding of the fate of our planet. So the fate of our democracy, the fate of our planet, the personal decisions for people at their kitchen table. How are they going to make ends meet? We reduce the cost of prescription drugs. Insulin in the IRA bill. Yeah. Insulin before the bill was $500 to $600 a month for seniors on Medicare, and now it's $35 a month. They want to change that back because they're in the pocket of fossil fuel industry, they're in the pocket of farmer, they're in the pocket of the gun industry. So we have to have clarity, and again, prioritizing and that's what we did in 2020, 22, when people said, you're going to lose 30, 40 seats. We said, we're not. I don't know why the people that sit in Washington or New York and say these things when they're not in the hinterlands, but into the fight, on the ground, mobilizing and fighting. We knew that gun violence protection, women's right to choose, climate and democracy and health care were very important. And the contrast, we had to make the contrast. This is what your member of Congress has voted for. This is what our candidate is for. And that's why we kept the minimum to 5 seats difference rather than 30 or 40 as was predicted. So again, we have to get out there and get the job done, and we have a mobilization. But I just say this one more thing: when we saved the Affordable Care Act, remember when? he was going to, repeal and replace, but whatever the replace was, nobody ever knew. We had 10,000 events throughout the country where people came forward and told their stories. Nothing more eloquent than that. Certainly more eloquent than the misrepresentation of the president, former occupant of the White House, when he says Obamacare sucks.
Yes.
Let's have a fight about that.
I feel like Democrats have their marching orders if they have tuned into this program this evening. Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, a treat to have you on in this sort of critical moment for the presidential race. Thanks for your time tonight.
Yeah.
Rachel.
Nancy Pelosi
Just win,
saying,
baby. Just win, baby.
Just win, baby. Saying that she does not want to talk about his cognitive disorders and she does not want to talk about him and his dysfunctions.
Yes.
And instead laying out what it is she does want to talk about.
Into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Hailey.
So, come on, when is it not, please? Okay, couple of things. I wanted low on the double. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah, I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I was so damn weird, going on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What?
The
Who's
other
the
ones can
insect?
protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
The Megatron.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy, sustained attack. They appear to be after the All-Star aircraft. General! General!